Hi, everybody, and welcome to Actionverse Entertainment. Welcome to DanCast. I'm your host, Dan Thompson. Tonight, we are talking about Transformers, and we were talking about Transformers, the movie, in a few minutes, because tomorrow is the 40th anniversary of the release of that film. And I'm joined by Gary Lockhart, who's having some technical difficulties, so he'll be joining us here in just a second. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Sorry we didn't do a show last week. I was pretty broken up over my aunt's passing, and just didn't have it in me. I was kind of out of sorts all weekend, and kind of getting back on track about midweek this week. So I appreciate your all's patience, and glad to be back on. So Gary's getting his stuff set up. We're gonna try to get him figured out here in just a second. I'm gonna try to get him back on as soon as he gets hooked back up. I think he's starting over again or something. But anyway, thanks to everybody for coming on. Tonight, we were talking about Transformers, as I mentioned earlier. Tomorrow is the 40th anniversary of the release of Transformers, the animated movie. In my opinion, the best Transformers movie of all time. And coming up in September is going to be the re-release of Transformers, the animated movie. And there's apparently added footage at the end of the movie. And there's a lot of speculation as to what that may or may not be. It may be maybe new footage. It may be leading to a new cartoon. It may be something that leads to the old stuff. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good. Could you tell everybody your bona fides real quick?
My bona fides?
Yeah, your bona fides.
my bona fides.
Well, I didn't want to say. I didn't want to say like Gary's a male dancer. He's not very successful, right. but he likes Transformers, so I thought I'd bring him in.
Thank you. No,
Please don't hit me tomorrow when you come in the shop.
So I'm a published author. I've wrote for movieweb.com for several years, and actually wrote several pieces on Transformers, and have even interviewed some of the stars from the films, including executive producer Lorenzo de Bonaventure. So definitely have had a couple conversations with him. And as well as just diving into the lore, diving into the knowledge. You know, I don't know about you, Dan. Actually, I do know about you, but for the sake of radio, that's what we always say. It's one of those things where growing up, you don't open a comic book store unless some of these stories resonate with you. And, you know, for me, I don't know what it was about robots that turned into other things, but for some reason that resonated with me. And the story, even though it was a toy commercial, you know, every year we watch the Super Bowl for toy commercials, and not toy commercials, but commercials in general. And those resonate with the public. For whatever reason, that just resonated with me. And then, of course, the stories became more and more and more as we grew older. And it's just an incredible thing. And then there's so much content to write about. MovieWeb was like, yeah, we love this guy. So so I wrote for them for a while, interviewed several people, and some of my pieces have gone on to have a lot of good reads. So definitely, I would think that's a big bona fide.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm really happy for you on that. I always enjoy when you come in my shop. Full disclosure, Gary's one of my customers. Not a good one, but he's one of my customers nonetheless. And hopefully I see you tomorrow, because I actually have some Transformers for you, which is our topic tonight. So yeah, it's interesting because we kind of got that 1-2 punch, really a 1-2-3 punch with He-Man, G.I. Joe, and Transformers. And of course, G.I. Joe and Transformers seem to really resonate. I remember as a kid when my sister and brother were born, and like I wasn't spoiled, but I didn't want for much. And my parents were very gracious with toys, and they wanted me to use my imagination and stuff. And they were like, "You get 2 toy lines. What's it going to be?" And I was like, "G.I. Joe and Transformers." And it's kind of like, if I had to start selling off stuff because I'm going to live under a bridge or something, that's the 2 I would try to hang on to the most. and it just, I don't know, something about those characters. A good friend of mine from Tennessee, Tillman Goins. I don't know if he's watching tonight. He should, because I like to have him on as a guest. But he has said one time, this is going back years, that there's something about the GI Joe, specifically that was about GI Joe, but it could be interpreted for Transformers as well. There's something with those characters is just very evergreen, that they have as much validity as Superman, Batman, the Justice League, and the Avengers, and they really do. Um, I mean, Optimus Prime is pretty much the animated John Wayne, the quintessential good guy, the guy that always has a plan, the boss that always does what he'll ask you to do, sort of thing. And Peter Cullen's voice, I mean, God bless that man. That voice is just so amazing. And the story he talks about his brother being in Vietnam, and saying, if you're gonna be a hero, Peter, talk like a hero, whatever, don't be fake or whatever. And man, that gives me goosebumps every single time. And I don't know if you remember, I think it was 2 years ago. And I don't remember exactly when. It might have been early part of 2024. He received like a lifetime achievement award, and Frank Welker gave it to him. And watching Frank Welker introduce Peter Cullen and hear Peter Cullen speak, it made me tear up. Kind of took me back to being a little kid and just like, thank you for my childhood, sort of thing. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
When you talk about Peter Cullen, what he voiced so much, I mean, it was he voiced in Voltron, he voiced obviously Transformers. I mean, the resume goes on and on and on, and then of course, that legacy. It's not even a part at a point. At a point, it becomes a legacy. And Hollywood thought so much about it that, of course, he was the voice of Optimus Prime in the movies. And eventually they got wise, and Frank Welker became the voice of Megatron. But the first time around, I think it was Hugo Weaving was Megatron in the first
Which
one.
wasn't a bad choice.
No.
I tell you what kills me about Hollywood, and having met voice actors and thought about doing it myself, because I do I can do a pretty good Starscream and Cobra Commander and a few others. I may not be able to talk for like 2 days afterwards, but I can pull it off. And not on demand. It takes several takes, but like those guys, I mean, to be able to emote through your voice and to act through your voice is such an amazing talent. It always pisses me off when you see like a movie coming out, an animated movie, and it's like let's say Transformers, the animated movie starring Brad Pitt, and like what the hell is Brad Pitt doing a voice for on this? He's a pretty boy actor. Put him where we can see him and all that. Get these guys that can do. I mean, Frank Welker. I mean, what a freaking legend, man. I watched a video of him back in the mid 2000s where his natural speaking voice is Fred from Scooby Doo, which is wild hearing this man talk. I'm like, that's freaking Fred from Scooby Doo, man. And then he like goes through this process of how he turns into Megatron, and it's so freaking cool. And it's like, oh my god, he still has it. And then just Peter Cullen's voice, man. Oh man, I remember him being Venger on Dungeons and Dragons before Transformers even came out. Of course, he did voices. All these guys did voices for Sunbow. I mean, GI Joe, Transformers, Jim and the Holograms, and Humanoids, Visionaries, all that stuff. Guys like Chris Latta, who did Starscream and Cobra Commander, just really awesome guys. So, tonight's topic is Transformers, obviously. So we're going to start at the origin and kind of go through it pretty quickly. So Transformers originated from GI Joe 12-inch figures. So Hasbro had sent GI Joe 12-inch figures to Japan, which was a little weird because we were occupying Japan, and now you're getting soldiers with scars on their faces and all that stuff. So that I can't imagine how awkward and weird that was. But they took them and they put metal parts on them, or aluminum parts. They made him a Henshin cyborg, which kind of was a big deal. And then they shrunk him down and created Microman, which came over here to the States as Micronauts, which I have a few of those. I had them growing up, loved them. Mego did Micronauts. They made a killing, and Micronauts came out in that year where there's no real dedicated Star Wars toys. But everybody wanted, something to do with space because Star Wars just blew up, really big. And Gary, I don't know if you froze again or if you're just doing a statue.
No, I was
Okay, you're really
I
you're.
was
I
a
didn't know if you're
buddy
doing
of
a
mine is
Zoolander.
a
If you're doing
buddy
a
of mine
Zoolander
listened.
there and Blue.
I
I don't know
sent
if you're
the
doing your version of Blue Steel or what.
I sent your link to a few friends of mine, so we've got some friends of mine in the audience today.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
yeah.
How much does Gary pay you guys to be his friends? I'm just curious because he doesn't pay me very much. In fact, I was going to
Well,
talk to you about that tomorrow. But so you
yeah.
got Microman comes over to the States as Micronauts. They shrunk Hinch and Cyborg down to 4 inches or 3 3/4. Did you ever have any Micronauts growing
I
up?
didn't. No, and if I did, I don't remember them. But no, I didn't have that. I had Joes and I had Transformers, a couple GoBots, a couple things like that. But I don't think I ever had any Micronauts.
So when I was a little kid, I was really sick and almost died, and I was in the hospital. And I remember I had the Micronauts Battle Cruiser. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, but that thing was pretty dope. And I just remember playing with that and asking the nurse for fried chicken. And it's just like a weird
Far from
memory I have.
Kentucky, so it's fried chicken's deserved here in Kentucky.
Pretty much, pretty much. Micronauts comes over to the States. It's very successful. Over in Japan, it was still Microman, and they turned it to Diaclone, if I'm saying that right. And in Diaclone shrunk up
Yeah.
even more, where they had little, half-inch figures. They would fit into mechs and vehicles, and the vehicles would transform. And so Hasbro caught wind of this. So it's just so weird how like Hasbro sends 12-inch GI Joe over, and then somehow it kind of goes full circle back to Hasbro, and they have Transformers. So they get the Diaclones. So if you ever wondered, because I did as a kid, like why in the world, like where's the pilots? Like you could put a guy in Optimus Prime and the Seekers, some of the cars. Well, in Japan you could because they had little figures, but in the States they didn't. And before Transformers came out, though, we had something called GoBots come out from Tonka. And you said you had some GoBots, right?
Oh yeah,
GoBots were really cool.
Yes, they were. They were really cool.
And they, the interesting thing is I saw somebody one time did a comparison. I think it was Michael French from Retro Blasting was talking about how you could have GoBots and put them in with your Hot Wheels and Matchbox, and you couldn't tell the difference. Transformers were obviously bigger, and their scale was all over the place.
Right.
So GoBots comes out first, does really well, and then Transformers says, "Yeah, here, hold my beer," or rather Hasbro, and they release Transformers. Now I remember seeing the Transformer commercials. I think for the comic books, and Hasbro had some success with that with GI Joe, obviously because they just kind of rewrote the script with that, and then the GI Joe cartoon came out in '83, the first miniseries. And then we got these Transformers #1, and I always butcher his name. Bob, can you say it? I don't want to butcher his name.
The guy who wrote it, or the writer?
Yeah, and created the personalities and named everybody. Bob Budinsky.
I think that's it. I think that's it because he worked for Marvel at the time. I think Marvel
he did.
Comics. Yeah.
Jim Shooter basically came in and said, "Yeah, this guy transforms into a gun. Give him a name."
Yeah.
I'm terrible with the English language. I'm going to probably start speaking Spanish or Italian just to, But yeah, Transformers comes out as a comic. And here's like issue 2. Issue 3 famously had Spider-Man teaming up with him, or fighting Megatron, rather. And then issue 4, and I know you love issue 5, is a Shockwave cover.
Yeah.
Gary's boy is Shockwave.
Shockwave. Team Shockwave.
So I remember seeing the ads for Transformers, the cartoon, and the comics, and we started getting the comics. And then I remember being at my babysitter's house. I had a lady that would pick me up from school or watch me while my mom worked and my dad worked. And it sounded like you got a dog trying to get in there to eat you or something.
No. The funny part is that's why I kind of moved into the basement, because the dogs were losing their mind, and I can still hear them down here, even through the even through my microphone setup. So I apologize.
Watch Grayson and be like, Daddy, the dogs want to see you. Let him in.
That's
Like,
right.
no, Grayson, no dogs. So I remember seeing the first cartoon episode at my babysitter's house, and man, I was just blown away. Immediately fell in love with Wheeljack and Optimus Prime. Fell in love with Hound. Fell in love with Prowl. Those are my favorites, and Jetfire, of course. And man, oh man, that cartoon just really captivated me. There was something about it, like Optimus Prime's voice
Yes.
was so just commanding. And it's really funny because a friend of mine who might be watching, so no offense, when Transformers 1 came out, I just said, man, it looks, and of course, I've heard it's a good movie. I haven't watched it yet. But the trailer was terrible. It just looked like Thor, Love and Thunder, that silly Billy humor. And he goes, well, you know, man, it's not made for us, it's made for kids. I'm like, bro, the stuff we grew up with was made for kids and it's still viable 40 years later. If you make it good, they'll come. And they really made those cartoons good. I mean, not all of them hold up perfectly, but they're still fun, still entertaining. I can't tell you how many times I'll be in the shop or I'll be at home off and I'm like, I put on Transformers, The Ultimate Doom. And man, I just freaking love that 3-parter. So Transformers always did things in 3 parts, where G.I. Joe did it in 5. So Transformers starts out as a miniseries, 3 episodes, and then it kicks over into a full ongoing season. And basically you have these 2 warring factions on a planet called Cybertron. There's no way to say that and not sound nerdy, but there's just no way. There's no, Brad Pitt could talk about it and still like, Brad Pitt's a nerd.
That's the second time you've mentioned Brad Pitt tonight. Is there something you'd like to tell us in the audience?
I don't know, man. I might watch Troy later with my wife. I'm just saying. But put my son to bed. We're watching Troy. Go to bed. You had the Autobots and Decepticons are 2 factions. They're fighting over their planet. It erupts in this horrible civil war that just devastates the planet. And the Transformers, and I always go at it that people watching this are the normies and that don't know anything about this stuff. So we kind of explain it as we go.
Mm-hmm. They're muggles.
And if you know about it, if you're like me and Gary, and it's like ingrained in your brain, good for you. It's the way it should be. But they're fighting over their planet and they're running out of their energy and they call it Energon. So Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, leads a group of his lieutenants and his inner circle, which is about 16 characters. They go to, they're trying to find a new source of energy. And the Decepticons, led by Megatron, follow them. They get in a battle. The ship crashes on Earth during the dinosaur times. And it crashes in Mount St. Helena in Oregon, I believe. Or Washington, wherever that is. Somebody correct me on my geography. I'm sure if Kevin Robinson's watching. Nope, there's Kevin Robinson. What's up, guys? What's up, Kevin? I should probably put you in this chat or this podcast with us.
Washington
They crash
State.
land. The volcano erupts in the cartoon and in the comics, and it awakes the ship's computer, Teletran 1. And they're there for 4 million years. They're dormant. They're just like fossilized, you name it. And so Teletran 1. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Megatron's messing with our stream, I think.
He doesn't want the truth getting out there.
Yeah, screw you, Megatron. We're telling everybody the truth. Puny earth, puny fleshling creatures. But so the Autobots are cars, the Decepticons are planes, and utility things like tape decks and tapes, and then the war starts all over again. And it just kind of erupts. Sorry, I was got a private chat from you. That's weird.
Oh.
So the Autobots quickly discover the Decepticons are looking for energy on the planet Earth. They attack humans. The Autobots protect the humans. Gary, do you want to take it from there for a minute?
can we just stop and appreciate that whole mythology and lore came from toys, right?
I'm telling you, man, the '80s was the greatest decade of
it
all
really
time.
was. It really was.
70. I have to say, 76 to 96. There's no greater 20-year period, and you can look at toys, comics, cartoons, TV shows, movies, music, wrestling, sports.
Hmm.
Even the Olympics were cool back then. I mean, just there were so many things going on from 76 to 96 that we're still uh, enjoying or still replicating or trying to replicate. And yeah,
Right.
you're right, man. The mythology of it is just incredible. From
And all from
toys.
a toy line, right? All because some guy, like you said, walked into someone's office and said, "Hey, create a personality or 20 for these guys." And I want you to go back um, on your comics and bring up issue number 3 again for the audience, because I want to point something out here. Issue number 3 is the Spider-Man issue, and if you look closely, what suit is Spider-Man wearing there?
Isn't it bad? I had to look for a second.
He's wearing the black suit, right? He's wearing the Venom suit. So the crossover appearance there, what we're seeing is he's wearing the black symbiote suit, which later became Venom. So the at the time of the crossover, Spider-Man with Marvel Comics, Spider-Man's like genuinely unaware of this conflict, but just starts coming in and whooping the Decepticons' asses. So it's one of those things where that's at the time where before Peter Parker really knew what the symbiote was capable of. So it just kind of goes back to what you were saying, kind of like the golden age of comics right there, where characters, even established characters such as Spider-Man, are not only they're not only showing up in the Transformers comics, but also they're discovering major parts of their identities and stories that we still know today and that continue today. Such as the Venom story and Spider-Man as a whole, and how those things connect even now. And I think that that's when something has kind of made it in pop culture. Like you said, we all know the story of Mount St. Helens, but then there's different intricacies that happen along the way. And Spider-Man, certainly in the comic books, is one of those intricacies, not only because of what that story represents as a whole with the black symbiote, but because of where it ended up in modern pop culture. And it really is telling about what they thought about the Transformers being an elaborate property at the time. So it kind of ingrains them. Oh, hey, these are more than robots. This is a story. This is great.
I still call it hip hop, but I'm an old school hip hop fan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Big Daddy Kane song where he says transforming on stage like a Decepticon. And I pop every time I hear him say that. I'm like, man, freaking Big Daddy Kane likes Transformers. I mean, come on. How cool is this?
It's pretty neat.
And we were talking earlier today. Gary's a really great guy, and we were talking earlier today. And it was just, man, Transformers is just a part of pop culture. It truly is. Gen X OG. Good evening, gentlemen. Well, good evening to you, sir.
What's up, Gen X OG? How are you?
Yeah. So, so we get to this beautiful storyline about the Autobots and the Transformers, and it kind of was in the comic. It was kind of in the cartoon. Mount St. Helens erupts. It awakens Teletran 1. It goes out. Teletran 1 sends a probe, finds vehicles and items to let them be able to duplicate, to camouflage themselves. And then the cartoon is off to the races, and the comic is off to the races. Now, I have a question to ask you, because it's a question I bring up to myself. So with G.I. Joe and Transformers, they were the two most prolific brands that had a long-lasting comic and a long-lasting cartoon. What was your canon as a child and as an adult now? Was it the comic? Was it the cartoon? For me, with GI Joe, it was kind of the comic was my Bible, and the cartoon gave me ideas and the personalities. Whereas Transformers, it was the cartoon, and the comic gave me ideas. How was that for you?
For me, it was reversed because I know you're a big GI Joe guy. For me, with the for me with GI Joe, it was what I knew of GI Joe was the television show, and what I knew of Transformers was the television show, and then beyond that was the UK Marvel Comics in particular, and that was the one where that really ingrained my favorite is Shockwave because Shockwave, for those that don't know, in the UK Marvel comic, Shockwave was the man.
He's
Like,
scary as hell.
yeah, he is. Megatron wasn't anything compared to Shockwave, and I know that statement sounds crazy because as Americans, we grew up as Megatron being the villain, but the UK they recognize Shockwave as the villain, and it's one of those things that he is he is more than just the one-eyed guardian of Cybertron. He is death incarnate, essentially. He is a madman who's fueled essentially by logic. So, of course, me being a God-fearing Christian, I latch on to him as my favorite character for whatever reason. But he is he's essentially he can't be beaten. You know, him and Scorponok had epic battles. Him and the Dinobots had epic battles. Him and Megatron had epic battles. And it's one of those things where that was the Bible for me, where the comics.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab my issue 5 so I can show the most epic, iconic Transformers cover of all time.
And then I have a story with it. So he's going to show the Decepticons or the Transformers are all dead cover, I think, is what he's going to show. Fun fact, I actually have that comic book signed by Stan Lee because it was at the time it was still a Marvel property.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think I showed you that, didn't I? Yeah,
I don't think
there
you
it
did.
is. Yeah, the
so this right here, Transformers
number
5.
Yeah,
all their heads are removed from their bodies, and it's a really bleak time for the Autobots. And it just that always hit me as a kid. Like the Autobots were always on their heels. I mean, on Cybertron, on Earth, you name it. So the Transformers comic runs for about 80 issues. The cartoon runs for 3 seasons. It runs for season 1, season 2, then they do an animated movie, which we'll get into here in a few minutes, and then does season 3, which is post-movie. And then there's technically a season 4, which is 3 episodes, The Headmasters. So Shockwave, it always was wild because the Transformers, really with G.I. Joe as well, everybody's jockeying for position. So the bad guys, especially the bad guys, and it made it so fun. Right out the gate, Starscream's trying to take control from Megatron. Non-stop. It's just like Megatron's like, man, can I have a day where we kill some humans and Autobots, and I'm like, leave me the hell alone. Let me do my thing. But it's like every day Starscream's jockeying for position. And then you got Shockwave, which I want to get into the Skybound stuff later, because what was neat was you had, when those books started, and I'm jumping way ahead here, forgive me, Starscream's in charge, then Soundwave, then Shockwave, then Megatron. And they were degrees worse than the other. But that's the Decepticons for you. So Starscream's always jockeying for position. And then the 4-issue miniseries ends, and Shockwave shows up and just screws over everybody and takes over. And he's ruthless, as you would say. And then there's always this like battle within the Decepticons where it's like Shockwave's the guy, then Megatron. Then the Predacons kill Megatron. Then it's somebody else. And it's Bludgeon. It's Scorponok. It's like just this nonstop back and forth over the leadership. It's kind of like the NWO and WCW. Like, who's really the main guy in the NWO? I guess that would make Optimus Prime Sting. Shout out to Sting. But Who's so as we get into the comics and cartoons, what are your favorite episodes or your favorite comics?
I think my favorite episode of the show was the Golden Lagoon. And I kind of appreciated the Golden Lagoon in season 2 because it showed that the good guys don't always win. And I thought that that was a powerful lesson. It's not that the Autobots lost, but the Golden Lagoon was they were trying to protect this last vestige, if you will, of of nature with the beautiful scenery, and because of their conflict, it just destroys it all. So what their goal there was, they were trying to protect it, and it doesn't happen. The whole place is destroyed because of their conflict, and Beachcomber takes it really, really hard. And it's a reminder to us us as kids, but certainly as adults, that the good guys don't always win. And that was one of the first times that I certainly remember the good guys not accomplishing their goal on television. And as far as comics goes, I think the episode, the one for me was Scorponok versus Shockwave in the comics. I think that was about as good of a fight as you could get. And
Did you do the Transformers Compendium? The
yeah,
Skybound
I
Dead?
bought that from you. Yeah. I bought that from your shop.
Well, I meant the
Which-
Kickstarter. Because
Yeah.
the Kickstarter, I did the Kickstarter, and it has the American and British comics kind of woven in
Mhm.
together.
Yeah,
And that's a pretty
Yeah,
cool thing.
it's
So
pretty.
my
neat.
favorite episodes, and I mentioned it earlier, was the Transformers, the Ultimate Doom,
Mhm.
where they used the space bridge to bring Cybertron and Earth's orbit. Creates all this like geothermal BS going on Earth, storms, snowstorms, tidal waves, everything's going crazy with the planet, and they're just harvesting energon out of it. And Prime has to choose because he's trying to stop it. And Megatron's like, yeah, you can stop it, but you'll doom everybody on Cybertron. And Prime's like, I have many friends on Cybertron. And he allows Megatron to do it. And my favorite is the second episode because they're all like in a car. I just remember as a kid, I love this, still love it as an adult. It's raining like cats and dogs. The Autobots are in a caravan driving forward, and like there's an earthquake, and Bumblebee and Spike fall in, and the others go and get them, and just it was really, really cool. And then of course Return of Optimus Prime Part 1 and 2 with the Hate Plague, which my son and I just watched that the other day, and that's really, really cool. Anytime you get the Stan Bush, you got the touch. I'm all for it. And I have to admit, I love that song, man. I hear that song and I think of like friends and family that have gone before me. And it just kind of, I don't know, something about this song motivates me. I had a guy that used to work for me and he would talk crap about that song. And I'm like, shut your mouth. That's a great song.
I think that song, it's one of those songs, just because of what it means in the film. I think it's one of those things that when you
Oh, man,
hear it,
twice.
you kind of stop what you're doing.
Twice
Right?
in
You
the
stop
film.
what you're it's twice in the movie, and you kind of stop what you're doing, and you kind of you just go and watch the scene. You go and watch the scene of Hot Rod getting Optimus killed, and then at the end Hot Rod killing.
You're the only
Cybertron.
person in my store that agrees with me on that.
Yeah,
that,
no, he
like,
absolutely got
We
him
talked
killed.
about this. So there was a great FX series called The People versus OJ. If you've not watched this, I highly recommend it. It's the first time they say the F word on FX, which the Mayans just blew that out of the water. But I said, we need to do a People versus Hot Rod show because Hot Rod was 100% complicit in the death of Optimus Prime. He's got freaking
Absolutely.
guns on his hands, man.
Yeah.
Megatron's got him in a chokehold. He just blasted him. I think they had a plan. He's like, look, I'm going to come down. We're going to wreck Autobot City. kill all of Dan's favorite characters off camera, and then we're going to, you can be in charge. You get this, I get that. We're good. And of course, Prime came down there and spoiled it, and then got done in.
Right.
But
Yeah. Fury versus
so who is your first Transformer toy?
I think it was Optimus, if I recall. I think it was Optimus. Yeah.
So because
I'm fairly certain.
So since we're dealing with Boomer Tech over here, and I don't have screenshots and all that, I actually have props. Braun was my first one. Now, all those out there, you're saying that's not the original Braun. Yes, it's not. It's a representation of it. Braun was my first. Then I want to say Wind Charger, and then Bumblebee. And then my first, I guess you would call it Deluxe Transformer, and one of my favorites was Hound. I loved Hound. Of course, I was big into G.I. Joe. Shocker to those that don't know that. And Hound was a military Jeep. So it was just kind of a no-brainer. And I really thought he was cool. And my Uncle Bernie got me him as a birthday gift for my birthday that year. And that was my first deluxe Transformer. My favorites are probably... Who's your favorite guy? Who's your favorite? Autobot and Decepticon. Okay, yeah, Shockwave.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Autobot?
Grimlock.
That makes a lot of sense with you.
Me, Gary, Grimlock. It was funny too because I know you're a wrestling guy, but when you remember when Brock Lesnar first came on the scene, like he was all muscle. My friends and I used to joke, like he would always be like, "Me, Brock, smart. Me, Brock, have words. Me, Brock, pound," and we always kind of made him sound like Grimlock. So
he just retired.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He made a statement, I think yesterday, where they asked him what his post-retirement plans were. He said, "I have 2 kids, 2 boys, doing hockey or soccer, and my daughter's trying to get in the Olympics. I'm supporting my kids in their dreams." And I'm like, man, I really respect him like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he's a family man, or at least he's turned into one. But yeah,
he's not somebody that's out there in the spotlight. I know we're veering off topic. Big shocker on this show. We're veering off topic a little bit. But yeah, man, he's like all about his family and their privacy. And I just really respect that about him. I think he's a pretty cool, very accomplished individual. I mean, you are a college champion in wrestling. You were a WWE champion, which we all know that's what it is. And he was a UFC champion. I'm like, that's pretty freaking awesome. And Gary compared him to Grimlock, which is a whole another level. So my favorites are obviously Optimus Prime, Will Jack, because who doesn't love an Autobot with a Brooklyn accent? Shout out to Brooklyn. And then Prowl, which I just sold my version of Prowl because I have a new version coming in. Let's see. The chat says, Kevin Robinson says, the first Transformer I got was Megatron. Kevin, that explains a lot about you. Kevin comes in the shop. He comes in hard and focused. He's probably laughing at me right now going, you silly. But anyway, so Shockwave's your favorite Decepticon. Your favorite Autobot's Grimlock. My favorite Decepticons are probably the big 3. Megatron, Starscream. Kevin's laughing at me. Kevin, I'm just speaking the truth. I just dropped Braun. So we're going to have problems. Probably going to have problems after the show's over. You may not see me tomorrow. And then Soundwave, of course. Which my son is terrified of his voice.
Soundwave superior.
Operation Get Your Ass in Bed.
When you dropped Braun a second ago, did you drop him on his shoulder, and did the shoulder kill him?
He looks pretty dead. He's dead, Jim. He's dead. So Transformers, as we said, ran for 80 issues of comics. It ran in the UK for a lot longer. Skybound recently did a Kickstarter where there's a compendium where it's all kind of mixed in together in chronological order and story order, which is super, super cool. And we'll get to Skybound in a minute. So Marvel had the Transformers comic, and Sunbow had the Transformers cartoon. And it's pretty phenomenal times, I guess you could say. Let's see. Chat says Kevin Robinson, as a kid, Blaster was my favorite. That does not surprise me about you, Kevin. I love Blaster too. Blaster was old school hip hop. Him and Roblox. They kind of were hip hop before hip hop started. There's like Run DMC, Blaster, and Roblox. Kevin says that boombox. Man, and I'm going to tell this story in a video soon. I got a USS Flag as a kid for $50. My dad picked that thing up like a freaking boombox, and we walked out of Sears with it. And I don't remember walking. I think I was floating behind my dad because I was so excited. But that's a story for a future podcast. Anyway, Transformers ran 80 issues. Then they did Generation 2, which is very intense. It was like Transformers Extreme because everything in the 90s was extreme, violent, crazy art. G.I. Joe and Transformers teamed up at one point and many points later in later years. And then the cartoon, we had one season, we had 2 seasons, and we had a movie. And that movie came out 40 years ago tomorrow. Transformers, the animated movie. Sorry, I'm trying to get my prop. Not trying to mess up these expensive comics. They've gone up in price. And I was able to pick this up a couple of days after my son was born, almost 10 years ago. The Transformers, the movie, Steelbook edition. And it's a very, very beautiful copy of the movie. And I have to say, so many years later, I was just born a couple of years ago. I totally wasn't around when that came out. This is all hearsay, what I've heard people say about it. That movie I still think holds up. And I know it bombed, which breaks my heart. But man, oh man, that movie was amazing. The animation, the soundtrack. It had 2 soundtracks. Before Batman 89 came out, the Transformers had 2 soundtracks. It had one by Vince DiCola, who scored Rocky IV. If you listen to the training montage and a track called War, you hear a lot of the cues from the Transformers. Because I'm sitting there, I'll work out and I'll listen to the Rocky training montage and War, and I just hear Optimus Prime say, Rocky, Megatron must be stopped at all costs. And just, it makes you go harder at the bag or on the weights. And then it had music by Stan Bush, Spectre General, Weird Al Yankovic, and man, oh man, that whole entire soundtrack, both of them are awesome. The animation from the shading and the colors was amazing. They said some bad words in that movie. I cannot believe it came out 40 years ago tomorrow. Can you believe that?
I can't. It was my first conscious memory of crying. This is when Optimus Prime died. So it was also my first time in a movie theater that I recall, but definitely
Kevin Robinson says, I took Metroplex to school for show and tell. You're braver than me, man, because I'm afraid somebody would have stole that from me.
I was afraid. I would be afraid somebody
I would have been scrapping, man. I would have been scrapping. So
you know where I saw the movie in theaters, by the way?
Where's that?
Bardstown Road Cinemas.
Oh wow.
Where
Showcase
Costco
Cinemas?
is now. Yeah, where Costco is now.
Dude, I saw so many movies there. It breaks my heart when I drive past there. When they were selling that place, you could buy it, but you couldn't make it a movie theater. I'm like, how stupid is that?
That is dumb. The place was built to be a movie theater.
Yeah, I was doing real estate at the time. And it's like, I want to put some investors together and buy that and rejuvenate it. I saw mine. There was a theater. There's a Target and a Consolidated on Dixie Highway, Valley Station. And there's a movie theater there, and that's where I saw it. And man, when Optimus Prime died, I cried my eyes out. There was just silence in the theater. Like, it wasn't like sobbing and boo-hoo-hoo. It was just kind of like everything was really quiet and nobody was, you could have heard a pin drop. And I remember seeing that movie, and man, oh man, it just really upset me. Now, I didn't have trauma like some of these people say they did. But when I got home, my dad's like, why is he crying? My mom's like, they killed Optimus Prime. He's like, oh shit. He's like,
Oh shit! What are we gonna do
we got
now?
to deal with death now. And I'm not ready for this.
Now we gotta deal with that.
My dad took me to the side. He said, hey, look, he's a robot. He'll come back. I'm like, but
And he
Daddy,
did.
only Jesus did that. And he's like, yeah, but Jesus wasn't a robot. Optimus Prime can do that. And Dad, if you're watching, you were absolutely right.
Yep.
Because he came back not once but twice. Let's see, Kevin Robinson, Showcase Cinema. Yeah, the greatest theater. Yeah, Kevin, man, I saw
was.
Star Wars there at 3.5 years old and had 100% total recall of that movie.
God, I didn't know you were that old. You're old.
Yeah, I'm so freaking old. It's not even
You
funny.
are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm only like 29. I just know a lot of stuff. Gary's going to put his dogs up. He's got some Sharkticon dogs, and they're acting up. So, yeah, man, I saw that movie, and man, oh, man, it was a gut punch that Optimus Prime died. And I was like, I'm getting older. I was like in 6th grade going into 7. And I was like, I'm getting older, and that's just the way things are. And I had lost an aunt that year, or a second aunt, or great aunt, I guess you could say. So it's like, well, it's kind of like how life is. You lose people. And man, it just was tough. Because Optimus Prime was just like the man. Let's see. Charles Jones, what's up, buddy? Autobots roll out. Yes, sir. You need to be reading Transformers. Start selling you Transformer toys, Chuck. Man, that a lot of kids were affected by Prime dying because it was just like that was like the guy. Kevin Robinson, did you get Onslaught? Not yet, sir. I'm still missing a piece or two. I did get this guy today, which I thought we were going to get in the shop, but we never did. For those that don't know, I am the owner of Zone Comics and Toys and Actionverse Entertainment. And we carry Transformers and G.I. Joes. And we're cheaper than Target and Walmart. But yeah, I just picked this guy up today. Metal Hawk, I think. Charles Jones, I better hit the lottery. Yes, sir. You and me both. My dad asked me what I would like to do with myself. And I said, I think I would be a very good rich guy. Gary is showing us something there, and it looks like Metroplex.
Yeah, it's the big Metroplex.
Kevin Robinson, big thumbs up. What's up, Kevin? I have a theory they're going to redo Metroplex.
I hope so.
I sold mine for a ridiculous amount of money, so we're shy of Metroplex in the Thompson household. Nice.
I think I bought this from you. I'm pretty sure.
Why do you got to show me trauma, man?
Because we're talking about trauma.
Oh, so Transformers the animated movie comes out August 8th, 1986. And it opens up pretty strong. There's this big world killer planet called Unicron. I think they might have got the basis of that off of Galactus from Marvel Comics. Again, another tie to Marvel Comics. And he destroys a planet. And then Prime sends out some of our greatest Autobot warriors to go to Earth. And they get ambushed by the Decepticons, and they get everyone killed. One of my favorites, Prowl, Ironhide. All of them just eliminated, just like that. And you're like, man, when did they learn how to shoot? That's my first question I had as a kid. I was like, not that they're dead, but it was like, they've been shooting at them for years. Like, what? It's like
we were used to the Decepticons going to the Stormtrooper School of Aiming, is what it was.
I guess.
Yeah.
They were all really bad shots. They all should have gone to a gun range or something.
Mm,
And
yeah.
Megatron is just ultra ruthless, kills everybody. They attack Autobot City. Hot Rod is your typical young guy, or what they would call in wrestling a young boy. Like kind of new to the game, and just kind of a bit of a screw up in some ways. Kind of like
Siobhan
his character,
Evans.
kind of like his character from Breakfast Club, who was voiced by Judd Nelson.
Judd Nelson.
And he's kind of notices there's a hole in the shuttle. The Decepticons are attacking. Cups like, wow, what are you doing, kid? That older guy kind of giving him advice when you don't want it. And Hot Rod kind of steps up to the plate, I have to admit. And the Decepticons attack. Prime shows up. Says a great line, Megatron must be stopped at all costs. You Got the Touch starts playing. He transforms, and he just kicks so much ass, you wouldn't believe it. And then him and Megatron have that final battle. And man, oh man, it's a fight. Hot Rod gets in the way. Prime dies. Megatron's kind of near death. The Decepticons leave. And man, when that Vincent DiCola score is going, I hear that part where like you see them carrying Megatron's body, and then like Rumble's carrying the gun, and it's like, damn, this is a battle. They get an Astro Train. Starscream takes advantage, kicks everybody out. They're floating in space. Some of the Seekers, the Insecticons, Megatron, Starscream takes over. There's a little bit of a meeting about that inside of Astro Train. Won't do the whole movie.
It sounds like you're doing
Unicron,
the whole movie.
yeah, pretty much. Unicron finds them and reformats them because we find out that Unicron is this ancient being, and the only thing that can stop him or slow him down is the Matrix, which is in Optimus Prime's chest. Optimus Prime gives the Matrix to Ultra Magnus. Not a very good choice because he loses it. As that Matrix gets tossed around like a hot potato. I'm like, we've watched this damn cartoon for 2 years, man, and there's been no Matrix. And now all of a sudden, it's like bouncing around like a hot potato to everybody and their mother in this movie. So we get to Ultra Magnus. Megatron becomes Galvatron. What's left of his minions becomes the Sweeps and Cyclonus, and they go seek out Ultra Magnus. They attack him. They follow him to Junkion. They attack them, kill Ultra Magnus, take the Matrix. Now Megatron's wearing it like a big medallion, like his Big Daddy Kane. That's your second Big Daddy Kane reference there. Done 2 Brad Pitts and 2 Big Daddy Kanes. Will there be a third? I do not know. But all that happens. Hot Rod's all like, oh, I think the Matrix can stop this Unicron. And we get to it. The Autobots kind of regroup, rally. They go to Cybertron. It's getting destroyed by Unicron, who's had enough of it. Galvatron tries to use the Matrix, and he can't unlock it because he's a bad person, and bad people can't unlock it. Gary,
Yeah, it's like Thor's hammer. He who
Pretty
is
much.
worthy haveth the power.
So Hot Rod and them crash inside of Unicron. He finds his way to Galvatron in the Matrix. He's like, "Well, do you no good, Autobot?" And they fight. Rodimus gets it, or Hot Rod rather, turns into Rodimus Prime, saves the day, throws Galvatron through Unicron, which makes him go crazy because the disconnection from Unicron unleashes the power of the Matrix, pretty much drains it, and destroys Unicron. His head pops off, though, before his body explodes, and his head is now the moon of Cybertron rotating around. And what I love about that movie is when Rodimus is giving the speech at the end, like, this is the end of the Cybertronian Wars. Everything's great now, blah, blah, blah. And then it kicks to the music, and you see Unicron's head kind of circle around, letting you know that, like, they're not out of the woods yet. Then we get into season 3 of the cartoon, and the cartoon is post-movie. Galvatron's batshit crazy. Excuse my language. Sorry, mom and dad, if you're watching. But he's batshit crazy. The Decepticons kind of put up with him. Rodimus is really struggling with leadership. He's not really the guy. I mean, it would be like a wrestler getting pushed before he was ready. And that was kind of Rodimus. He's always like, "Oh, what should I do?" Prime was a better leader, which is never a good sign if you're saying the previous guy was better than you. I'm just saying. Especially like if your wife dated some guy, you're like, "Oh, your previous guy was like better than me, but I'm going to try to live up to that."
If you don't mind, let's rewind just a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail the show later. Let's appreciate the voice cast of that movie, by the way. You had Judd Nelson, Robert Stack from Unsolved Mysteries. You had Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock himself, who later lent his voice to Transformers Dark Side of the Moon. You had, I think we mentioned Judd Nelson. You had John Moshida, which was the world's fastest talker at the time, and also AKA the Micro Machines guy. You had Lionel Stander. You had, of course, Peter Cullen, Frank Welker. But then you had Oscar-winning, of all things, Oscar-winning Orson Welles, who hated that he was in the movie, but also everybody kind of loved it because it was his last part. His last part was as this huge threat of Unicron that went on. By the way, I know later on we're going to talk about pop culture and how Transformers has kind of infiltrated pop culture, but the movie Spaceballs completely ripped the transformation of Megamaid from the Unicron transformation sequence. So when Spaceball 1 transforms into Megamaid, that whole thing was ripped completely from Transformers, which only had come out a couple of years prior. So
you're saying Mel Brooks is a Transformers fan?
Absolutely, he is. And also, by the way, when Yogurt first meets the gang, and then they're on that planet, one of the pieces of merchandise he's trying to sell is a Transformers lunchbox. So yes, Mel Brooks, definitely a Transformers fan, at least at the time. He's 100 now. I don't know if he remembers that, but definitely at the time.
He's directing Spaceballs too.
Yeah, just Spaceballs too. So yeah, and then you had mentioned the gun, Rumble running off with the gun. Can we appreciate that gun was bigger than Rumble? Like,
that's the thing I tell people about Sunbow was like the reason those cartoons last and make sense. And I'll go to G.I. Joe for a second. They had an episode where Cobra had like some special jet fuel mixed with fertilizer and made giant plants. Now, the storyline's crazy and silly and stupid, right? By the level of detail they put into these cartoons, they're in Chicago. They show the scene where the White Sox play baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they do the overhead shot, and then they cut to where you're looking under the shortstop's legs at the pitcher thrown to the batter. That's stuff you do in movies and TV shows, not cartoons. In cartoons, normally you see the guys like just kind of walking around and like, oh, hey, we're here in this nondescript place. But G.I. Joe and Transformers through Sunbow really, really did that extra thing to make it where establishment shot, another establishment shot, cut to the characters. And like those things last because of that. Orson Welles. So Orson Welles, have you ever seen this clip of Orson Welles on Johnny Carson? Now, those that don't know, Orson Welles is a rather large man, kind of like Marlon Brando in his later years. And Orson Welles, and I don't know what year this was, he was on Johnny Carson, and Freddie Prinze Sr. was on there. And I love this clip. So Orson Welles comes in, sits down, Johnny Carson introduces him. Freddie Prinze Sr. looks at him and says, "Man, you're really fat." And Orson Welles looks at him and goes, "Yeah, I can go on a diet. You're just ugly." And I was like, oh my God, Orson Welles is the freaking man. That was like the funniest clip ever. and Johnny Carson's just losing it. But yeah, man, the voice acting in that movie, the Eric Idler is Wreck-Gar. And wasn't Ernest Borgnine Cup, or am I dreaming that?
I think you were dreaming. The Cup was Lionel Stander.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounded just like him. There's a lot of Airwolf going on at that time, folks. Look that up. But yeah, the voice acting.
Scatman Crothers was in it. Scatman Crothers was absolutely jazz in that movie.
He was so awesome.
Jazz to Moonbase 1. Jazz to Moonbase 1.
I just remember Spike going, "Oh shit!
Oh shit! What are we gonna do now?" How about
that's why Mom and Dad were there in that movie to look at those new characters you need to get for Christmas and your birthday, which was a pretty smart strategy on their end. Like, let's have some violence, let's throw a couple of profanities in. Mom and Dad have to be there. You can't just drop the kids off. Man, I was thinking about this. I got dropped off to see one of the Muppet movies, and I'm like, there's no way in hell I would drop my kid off to a movie these days.
That explains a lot.
It just, well, yeah, probably. Yeah. Remind me to tell you about the time of the caravan of clowns pulling us over. I'll tell you that tomorrow.
Okay.
But man, that's a whole nother podcast. Man, it just, that movie just was like generational. And I thought it did well. I remember coming home, I was kind of teary-eyed. Like I said earlier, my dad's like, "What's wrong with the boy?" Like, "Oh, they killed Optimus Prime." And my dad's like, "Oh, shit, really?" So he goes over and talks to me, says he's a robot, he'll come back. Sure enough, he did. In season 3, there's a very brief episode where they go to the tomb where old Autobots are, and there's Prime and the Quintessons. We got introduced to the Quintessons. Tell everybody who the Quintessons are.
The Quintessons were the judges, so they became the bad guys in season 3, and then I think the 5th Transformers movie introduced Quintessa, which was kind of a mock-up of all the Quintessons put together, as well as named after their home world of Quintessa. But the judge, they had 5 faces, which they became later in the post-movie episode, the 5 Faces of Darkness season. It was a 5-parter. Dan had mentioned earlier that Transformers traditionally did things in episodes of 3, whereas G.I. Joe did things as episodes of 5. They took a playbook out of the G.I. Joe mode of thinking and actually did a 5-parter post-movie.
For that 3rd season.
Yeah, and that was the 5 Faces of Darkness, and the 5 Faces of Darkness is referring to the Quintesson judges. And that's where they kind of came up with that. And that, the Quintessons were some scary dudes. Like, you're in the movie, and they find them innocent, and all of a sudden, they're being executed. Like, whoa! You were
the Quintessons.
They just said they were innocent. Like, what's going on?
They had the 5 Faces, and they had the Sharkticons, which were these just really ravenous. I don't know what you would call them, kind of squatty things with jagged, sharp teeth, and they would just maul and chew whoever's in this pit. And then they had judges. They had these big, elongated heads, kind of like an alien, from a xenomorph from Alien. And yeah, they were pretty scary. They were like guilty or innocent, and they would drop you down.
Yep.
Where's Judd Nelson / Hot Rod? I have nothing but contempt for this court. And of course they ended up down there and fight their way through it, and they get rescued. Transformers season 3, a lot of people don't like that season because it gets really out there in some things. I could be wrong on that now. I think nostalgia's a hell of a drug and people look at it differently. But I just remember the Return of Optimus Prime when that came out. I freaking love that. With the hate plague, it made no sense. Some red dust on an asteroid would make you hate people and want to kill. But there was a movie called Life Force that came out in '85 that freaked me out, and it kind of reminded me of that. Did you ever see that?
No, I never saw Life Force.
Dude, that movie terrified me. I've never seen it, but the trailer scared me so much. Like, I'm an adult, obviously, and I could see this movie if I want. It was on Tubi, and I'm like, Hell no, Tubi, I'm not watching this. I don't want to have nightmares all week. But Transformers season 3 was pretty. It had some pretty badass episodes. Had some pretty weak episodes. It was kind of a big jump because we're in the future now. We're not like in 1987, 88. We're about like
2006.
yeah, big 2006, which was 20 years ago.
Where's the time gone? I
Oof,
remember
man.
some of the animation in the show, like Call of the Primitives. I remember was a very well animated episode.
Keep talking. I'm
Was
going to grab
that
some Sharkticons to
okay?
show everybody
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
For Call of the Primitives was an episode pretty much featuring all the animals of from both factions. You had the Predacons, you had Skylynx, you had Tripticon, you had the Dinobots, the Tapes, Steeljaw, Ratbat, and all them. And the Call of the Primitives was very well animated. It was kind of like almost Gundam animated style, and so they kind of in some of the episodes they did very good animated. But then again, Transformers is also a series that was known for quite a bit of animation errors. But every now and then you had a really well animated one, and that was one of them that sticks out to me as being pretty well animated. Was that one, and it had a pretty good story as well. I see one of those little buggers in your hands. You know what? Speaking of old movies, for some reason, the way you're holding that, you know what the Sharkticons kind of remind me of now that I think about it?
What's that?
Remember, and it's not Gremlins, but remember back in the 80s, it seemed like everything had a counterpart. Like GoBots had the Transformers, G.I. Joe and Mask. You seemingly had some counterparts out there. They were different, but the same in a lot of aspects. Gremlins had a counterpart called Critters. Yeah. The horror movie Critters. It kind of reminded me of when you were just holding that Sharkticon right there. Like, oh, that could have been from Critters.
Yeah,
But
now that you mentioned
yeah.
that Critters, and there's something else. One of those like really like Critters. I always thought was like kind of a B movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that was kind of like a D movie that had something similar to that. It was kind of like lesser than Critters.
Mm-hmm.
Chat. I challenge the chat. Tell me who your favorite Transformers are and your favorite Transformers episodes. Kevin, Gen X OG, whoever else is watching, jump in and tell us what is up. Gary, explain what I have in my hand here.
That is a Quintesson Judge. That is from the Pit of Judgment set, I think. But those are the 5 faces of darkness right there. So you have they were always scary because you look at the complexity of that character. You had a body, 5 faces, and these large tentacles that encompassed a whole lot of space. So seeing those things, this is, for a kid, that's pretty scary, right? Because we're used to seeing robots. And
when I would get in trouble as a kid, I was always scared my parents would be the Quintessons.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're not in trouble. You're grounded. Like, like, thank God they didn't pay attention to that stuff or we'd be in trouble, right? So you have Transformers Season 3. It wraps up a full season. Prime returns. Then you have the Headmasters, which goes back to the 3-episode miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
Headmasters introduces Transformers where the heads pop off and like human characters could somehow transform as their heads. And you also had Target Masters.
Yeah.
And those 3 episodes were pretty cool. I remember there was an accompanying comic called The Headmasters, which introduced Fortress Maximus and some other characters. And they eventually, Scorponok being one of them that you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. And they ended up being in the mainline Transformers comic. Eventually, in those 3 episodes, or the last of the Sunbow episodes, and Transformers would continue in Japan. And then the Transformers comic would end with issue 80, although it continued in the UK. And then they would relaunched it in conjunction with Generation 2 of Transformers. So you'd have like a Transformer that was like red was now green. They did a lot of redecos, repaints. Was there any really unique characters for Gen 2, or was it just repaints?
There was one, a stealth bomber, and I can't remember his name. He was a Decepticon with a stealth bomber, but yeah, he was part of G2, and he had a little
Those that
side
don't
bot.
know, when Desert Storm started, the stealth bomber was all the rage.
Mm-hmm. Let me
Like you
see what
couldn't get
his
enough
name
of
was.
stealth bombers. Transformers, G.I. Joe, you name it. Um, then sadly, Gen 2 comic ends with 12 issues. There's no Gen 2 cartoon because it's continuing in Japan, and Transformers goes silent. And no comic, no cartoon. It eventually comes back as Beast Wars, Beast Machines, so on and so on, but no Gen 1, our beloved Gen 1. But then something happens in 2001. G.I. Joe comes back into comics. It's coming back as a toy. And there's always been Transformer toys. There was Robots in Disguise, Beast Wars before that, Beast Machines. And then in Japan, it never stopped. And then a company called Dreamwave does Transformers the comics. And they did gangbusters business. Gangbusters. And then around the same time, we had Transformers Armada come out as a cartoon and then a toy line, which is pretty cool. They had, what was that, Minicons?
Mm-hmm. The Minicons.
And you'd have a Minicon that would add to your body and give you, unlock something in the toy, like a gun, a weapon, power, when you're playing it out. Dreamwave had an interesting scenario because the guy that owned it, Pat Lee, who's kind of not a very good person because of this. They made so much money. He went and spent his money and bought several Ferraris. Didn't pay his writers, didn't pay his artists, didn't pay the bills. Comic ended after about 10, 12 issues, and nobody got paid. And he just kind of ran off with the money. Eventually, Devil's Due Publishing, which did G.I. Joe, did a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover. First one was excellent. Marvel did one back in the day. They did a second one. Dreamwave, before they went defunct, did one that I believe took place in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Then Transformers just kind of goes dormant, and it shows up at IDW. IDW gets the rights. They do Transformers. They do a couple of miniseries. They do All Hell Megatron. They do one where the new Avengers, the Brian Michael Bendis Avengers, team up with the Transformers. That was pretty good. And then eventually we get Transformers, Robots in Disguise, and More Than Meets the Eye. Which, what was the thing with Shockwave where he's getting into the Dark Universe? Because Transformers ran about 30 issues and
Mm-hmm.
ended and split into two books. He was doing something with the Dark Universe or
Yeah.
something, or rather, and they kicked off two books. They had a number of miniseries, one shots. It was pretty cool at first, and then it just got really weird at the end. Before it got really weird, you had a really cool storyline with Megatron, where Megatron, you find out, was kind of this Martin Luther King Jr. character, and the Primes and the Senate kind of betrayed him, blamed everything on him and the Decepticon movement, and kind of started the Civil War. And during the series we were talking about where Shockwave's kind of the main villain, Bumblebee and Megatron have to team up. Bumblebee and Megatron have this great conversation. Megatron's like, I was like you, but I got pushed to do what I'm doing now. I don't like it, but I got to do it. And Bumblebee dies in his arms, and Megatron takes Bumblebee's Autobot symbol, wears it, and becomes an Autobot, which was the craziest freaking thing ever. And they do two books, Robots in Disguise, More Than Meets the Eye. More Than Meets the Eye features a book, a ship called the Lost Light, which gets thrown out in space. Kind of reminded me of Star Trek Voyager and Battlestar Galactica, kind of mixed together with Transformers, where there's so many guys on this ship, and Megatron's one of them. And he's just kind of quiet and trying to change his ways, and robots in disguise. Focuses on different things like Earth, Cybertron, that sort of thing. Starscream becomes the duly elected leader of Cybertron, which was crazy. There's like
It's a great
13.
idea.
Yeah, I loved it. It's like
Yeah.
13 colonies, kind of like Battlestar Galactica. I think whoever's writing those books watched the new BSG because they copied quite a bit from it, which, it's cool. Then there's this really great character named Tarn. Would you like to explain who Tarn is?
Tarn is the leader of the Decepticon Justice Division, who was brutal and ruthless, and he would sing to people before he killed them, and the singing lulled them into a state of inebriation, essentially, and that's when he would kill them. But he was charged. He had the Decepticon face as his face, so the Decepticon logo.
Who is his hero and mentor?
Megatron, wasn't it?
And who is he most disappointed in?
Megatron. Yeah.
There you go.
Never meet your heroes.
Great.
Yeah. No. Never
You've
meet
met
your
me,
heroes.
Gary, and you're fine.
Well, what you don't know is when I tell people to come visit your store, I tell them to come visit the fourth best store, the fourth best comic book store in Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a dick.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kevin Robinson, Devastator, Jetfire, Blaster, Metroplex, Soundwave, honorable mention, Perceptor. It's a pretty good list.
So going back to IDW, I told you about this little. There's a Transformers character who's not very well known on screen, but in the comics he's very well known. But his name is Swerve, and the IDW comics were they were kind of filmed. They were kind of written in a not a sitcom, but in a sitcom type of way. And when there was an episode in the comics a book in the comics where Swerve discovered the three bold and shining truths that the three bold and shining truths of humanity. Here were the three truths. Life is inherently tragic and over far too quickly. All art thrives on conflict. We valorize fiction because it helps us make sense of ourselves. And the third was, let me get it to quote here. The third was, where's it at? Hold on. I have it written here, I promise. It is, the third truth is humanity's absolute greatest misstep was firing a guy named Dan from a sitcom. And that is a shout out, not to Dan Thompson, who's our co-host, or who's our host tonight, but Dan Harmon, who directed and wrote seasons 1 through 3 of the hit sitcom Community. So awesome. according to IDW, the biggest misstep in human history, in 30,000 years of human media history, was the firing of Dan Harmon from Community. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think I disagree with that, actually.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
I tell you, man, they were knocking it out of the park with those two books.
Mm-hmm.
They later got rid of Robots in Disguise and just called it Transformers because Robots in Disguise became the kids' line.
Right.
But those books were really good. And there's the finale of More Than Meets the Eye was Megatron gets lured to a planet where Tarn and the DJD are there.
Mm-hmm.
And they kill Ravage. And that sets Megatron off. You see Soundwave is like one of Prime's lieutenants now in the other book, and you see him kind of be like, not feeling well, need a day off, because he sensed that Ravage died because of the connection with him. And when Megatron goes to avenge Ravage and stop Tarn and his group, it's pretty wild because Megatron developed this force field, and I forget what the story was with that. But they he does this force field around them, and Tarn or one of them is like running their mouth. And they're like, "It's not going to protect you from us." And he's like, "No, I'm making sure you don't escape from me." And he just goes to town and just brutally slaughters these guys and avenges Ravage and the Autobots. And man, oh man, it's a great story and great ending to that book. And then IDW kind of, after Robots in Disguise and More Than Meets the Eye, they just did Optimus Prime and The Lost Light. And I couldn't tell you what the hell those were about because they were so hard to read. And then they did the Unicron finale and ended that universe, started it over, and that was even more hard to read. And I just kind of did Joe Pesci Casino, and I was like, I'm out, and I was done. And the sales tanked on that book. I went from selling 50 copies a month of each book to 4.
Oh my
That's how
gosh.
bad it got. Because they got into like things. I don't need my Transformers kids toy line telling me who to vote for, who to sleep with, who to pray to, and they went into all that stuff and just bad writing, and it just kind of tanked. GI Joe was the same way at the time, and then it went dormant for about a year. No GI Joe, no Transformers, and then it popped back up with Skybound, Robert Kirkman's company, and it's been the best thing for both of those brands. The Transformers book. Oh yeah, I got to show an honorable mention here.
Is that Jetfire?
That is a
It
G1
is.
vintage Jetfire,
Yeah.
worth a lot of money. It's a very sentimental piece. If I had a fire, I would risk my life to get this out. My dad and my mom were separated for about a year and a half. Ooh. Actually, they got back together about 40 years ago. But anyway, they're not together now. But my dad got me this for Easter, and it's meant the world to me. And it's like one of my most prized possessions. Um, and this is a whole other story. I don't know if we want to get into this. The whole Macross, Robotech, because Shockwave himself was not really a. Somehow they got that mold, made it, got this mold, made it, got sued by Harmony Gold. That's above my
Shockwave
pay
was
grade.
from Radio Shack.
Yeah,
Shockwave was Galactic Man from Radio Shack.
isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They they brought in some of these iconic designs. Well, they wanted something different. And you have a transforming mech of Macross that has 2 modes or 3 modes essentially. You have the airplane mode, the giant robot mode, and the hybrid mode. And with Shockwave, you had majority of these guys having 2 eyes, and they turn into these giant these cars, jets, planes. Shockwave had 1 eye, and then turned into not a gun like Megatron, but a giant freaking laser cannon. So, he himself was a little bit different. But yeah, he was Galactic Man and he was originally gray and not purple.
Yep.
He's now become purple. But Transformers Animated did an homage to that in a way when they had his Autobot side of Long Arm Prime. He was gray. So that was an homage to Galactic Man being gray at one time. And then, of course, when he transforms into the spy mode or his Decepticon mode, he turns into the purple one-eyed guardian of Cybertron that we all know and love. But yeah, they've done a lot of things with him.
When I first met you, you were gray.
Thank you.
Purple.
Yes.
So,
now I'm purple. So
very
it's a blood flow issue. These things happen. So
take vitamins, my friend.
Hey.
So Skybound, which is a division of Image, it's owned by Robert Kirkman, who created Walking Dead and Invincible. Got the license for GI Joe and Transformers, and Transformers launched a couple years ago with Daniel Warren Johnson writing and doing the art. And in my opinion, I could be wrong, Daniel Warren Johnson got Optimus Prime right.
Mm-hmm.
More right
I'd
than
agree with
any
that.
version ever since the cartoon. Issue 2 of Transformers is very pivotal. Optimus Prime is checking out the Earth, steps on a deer, realizes he killed it, didn't realize it. Spike's like, man, it's okay. It's a deer. It's all right. You didn't mean to. And Prime kind of breaks it down that, like, look, man, everything on this planet is precious and fragile. And unfortunately, we brought our war here by accident. Now, in this version, it's only been 100 years, not 4 million, which I think is kind of cool because it's more relatable. 100 years is only like a couple generations. But this has been the best version of Optimus Prime I've seen since the cartoons. And Daniel Warren Johnson's run has been phenomenal. And we were selling more copies of Transformers than we were Amazing Spider-Man and Batman put together. And it still sells pretty well today.
Does
The
it still outsell
storylines,
both of those?
huh?
Does it still outsell those?
It's pretty close. They're about the same now. They're in the beginning. I mean, I know we got like, I think it was 200 copies of Transformers #1 sold out like that. We were selling 100, but there's some stuff that happened in it in a few months ago. It's kind of agitated the fan base in a way where they're not really. Some of the people have dropped it. Let's see the chat. Let's go to the chat real quick. Kevin Robinson. Yep, I used to see Shockwave at Radio Shack at Basher Manor Mall all the time. Yeah, me too, man. That was a cool mall back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Basher Manor
Uh,
Mall was cool.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Went through quite a bit my junior and senior year. That in Jefferson Mall, Oxmoor Mall, Mall St. Matthews kind of became a thing for me, like in the mid to late '90s. Um, but yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson's run on Transformers is just pretty much epic. Take my word for that. Um, the the juxtaposition of Starscream and Prime in that issue. Starscream crushes somebody with his hands, calls humans squishies. Prime feels remorse for accidentally stepping on a deer. You couldn't get further apart. It just shows you the nobility of the Autobots and the just pure ruthless evil of the Decepticons. And what's interesting is we start out the series with Starscream as the leader. We don't know where Megatron is until the Cobra Commander miniseries. And then we find out. Starscream gets deposed by Soundwave. You think Soundwave's kind of this like kind of nerdy, yes man. He's more ruthless than Starscream. And then your boy Shockwave shows up and he's more ruthless than Soundwave. To the point where Thundercracker's like, man, I'm not down with this stuff. Why are we just killing these things for no reason? Which now Thundercracker's an Autobot. Which they kind of did that theme in the IDW series, which was kind of funny. Thundercracker had a dog and he wrote really bad movie scripts, which was pretty funny. I will say they took a lot of chances with that run and it was pretty cool until it wasn't until the end of those series. But this current series is really good. Hound is a member of the GI Joe team, which is neat. He was kind of there with them the whole time. GI Joe was formed to take down the Transformers. Then Mask has come out of this, where Miles Mayhem is part of a group studying the Cybertronians that they have found over the years. And he took that technology with him and Matt Tracker and made it to where the cars and vehicles would transform. Now we have a Mask series. Back when IDW had the license, they tried to do a shared universe because that was the Hasbro edict. We have all these things that have nothing to do with each other, and we want to be like Marvel. Give us a shared universe so we can do endless movies. And IDW did it. Like literally, you had ROM issue 1 come out, which I was super stoked. And the next issue, it's like some big crossover. Why should I care? Whereas right now, you had Void Rivals, Transformers, 4 GI Joe miniseries, then a GI Joe series. You have 3 books. Now you have 4 with Mask, and they kind of gradually introduce the Mask characters, and it's pretty organic how they do it. And I really like how they're doing it, and all of it's been really fun. It's my favorite stuff to read right now, honestly. How about you, Gary? How do you feel about all that?
One of the things I found when I was writing for MovieWeb, would you believe it if I told you that the majority of people don't consider G1 to be the best series?
Cartoon wise or comic?
Both.
Comic, I could see. Goes back to what we said earlier. What was your canon? What was your Bible?
Mm-hmm.
To me, the Transformer cartoon was the Bible. The comic gave me ideas. G.I. Joe is the comic. The cartoon gave me ideas. And looking back years later, and I'm going to have this conversation with somebody in the next couple weeks. I feel like I learned who the characters were through the cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Love the comics, more so the G.I. Joe than the Transformers. But yeah, you got Flint's voice from G.I. Joe the cartoon. You got Peter Cullen from Transformers. You got Frank Welker from Transformers. You didn't really necessarily get that in the comics because the comics are still in that kind of like Marvel formula versus this is something totally different.
Do you know who most people, the majority of people who are Transformers fans, do you know what series they consider to be the best?
Beast Wars?
No. Transformers Prime. They consider that to be the new best because of the storytelling. Whereas the movies, so and the weird part about that is that a lot of people don't like the Michael Bay films, and I get it. The first one was good, the second one was garbage, the third one was really good. And then you had Bumblebee and the one with the one that just came out with the Rise of the Beasts.
I really liked Bumblebee. I thought that was good, and
Bumblebee was good.
Not just because of the first 10 minutes, but I thought story-wise it was decent. What was the one where they were like in Chicago and Megatron was wearing like a blanket on his face?
Yeah, that was the third one. I think a lot of people like that one because it was 5 of the cartoon episodes in one movie.
That was so bizarre to me because you didn't have Megan Fox in it,
right?
Because her and Michael Bay broke up or something.
Yeah.
And like whoever the new girl was, they kept making mention of it, like, oh, Sam Witwicky's new girlfriend, she's pretty cool. Sam's new girlfriend, blah 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 blah, just over and over and over. And I'll just never forget, like, there's all these explosions, and she's walking, and they have like her hair blowing like she's a model, and she walks up to Megatron. Yeah, she was a model in real life. She walks up, or was she a model in the movie?
She was a model in real life. It was Christine Huntington Wheatley.
I mean, I'm not going to knock it, but she walks up to Megatron, and he's like literally sitting on the stoop of the Cosby's porch or something. It looked like Bill Cosby would go, Megatron, what are you doing on my porch? It's like he's just sitting there with his blanket over his head. She goes, Megatron, are you going to be sitting the prom's biatch? Megatron is no one's biatch. And I was like, what are we doing? I was
getting
like, what the hell is this?
Blonde girl. Getting the pep talk from the blonde girl.
Literally walked up to Megatron and said that. And I'm like, I don't really want to hear Megatron say biatch. I'm just saying, like, And then it was like, I don't know, it was so weird. It was better than the second one. The first Michael Bay I thought was decent for what it was. It had a lot of heart and emotion to it. And then it just got really freaking weird with the second one. Third one kind of toned it down, but I don't know.
The third one was really good. I like the third one, but it was funny because the Transformers movies had such I don't want to say animosity, but they were very much viewed differently. And And Transformers Prime was a reflection of the show. And for the movies to get mixed reviews like they did, and for several people now to consider Transformers Prime as kind of the Bible, really, is
Hold
a
on one
very
second.
interesting
Songs for
dynamic.
Life says no Bayverse. They never
Yeah,
happened. I
that
agree with
never
you, sir.
happens, right?
I agree 100%.
But see, without Bayverse, the Transformers Prime doesn't exist. And like I was saying, a lot of people now consider Transformers Prime to be the quintessential Transformers. I did a piece on it ranking the series, and I ranked G1 as number 2 and Transformers Prime as number 1. And I'm telling you, in an era where people will rip the living shit out of you for writing something that they don't agree with, a lot of people in the comments agreed with my sentiment on that. A lot of people agreed that they felt like Transformers Prime better embodied the stories and some of the mythos better than the original series did. And whether that's right or wrong, that's the sentiment that a lot of people feel with because of the feel and the tone and how it became a little bit more modernized with Transformers Prime and some of the things that they did. And
I remember watching Armada and Energon on the Cartoon Network, and I always thought those were kind of fun. Like they almost felt like Dragon Ball Z with Transformers.
Right.
Songs for Life says Transformers 1 brought young people back in.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also says, and Armada for whatever reason.
Armada was one of those weird things where that was the Unicron trilogy. They did Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. And that was like the start of kind of a loosely connected series that they weren't really connected, but they kind of were. But it was an interesting one that they did. And Cybertron was done really well. You had the cyber keys and the way that was animated. That was a really cool show to watch because it was leaps and bounds, I thought, better than Armada and Energon. But yeah, that was a really good show.
I liked all of those. I didn't watch them religiously. If they were on, I would watch them because I was just such a diehard G1 fan. But I thought the toys were fun. I like the concept of it. I wish that something like that was around right now for my son because I think he'd be all about it, collecting the mini cons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that'd be a lot of fun for him and like your son Grayson.
Yeah.
But where do you see the brand going in the future?
I like where the brand, they've got the crossover coming up with G.I. Joe, which when I interviewed Lorenzo de Bonaventura a few years ago, he had said that was the one thing that was going to be happening in the near future, and it got put on the back burner. But he said at the time, one of the things that was really interesting was going to be the Joes would be coming into the Transformers world. So they'd be playing by the Transformers rules. And I thought that was a really definitive statement for where the franchise is going, that Hollywood was going to be was going to be leveraging the Joes with the Transformers. Because I know in the comic books, I kind of feel that in the comic books in the series, I kind of feel like G.I. Joe is the one that is the overwhelming favorite. But in Hollywood, essentially the numbers tell us this too. More people kind of clung to the Transformers as opposed to G.I. Joe, and that certainly rings true with the number of movies that have been made of each franchise.
Well, I think your Bonaventure guy has been kind of the problem. I think Transformers has been getting
Lorenzo?
more respect.
Oh, he's great. Lorenzo's great.
And I think G.I. Joe's kind of like this redheaded stepchild. Kind of like how I treat you when you come in the store.
Right. No, it was great. No, I still remember what you guys did last time I was in the store where you guys were off to the side, and we're not going to talk about that. But
I had a heart attack or something because you came in, or No. But we may act like we can't speak English tomorrow when you come in. But I'm excited because we're supposed to be getting an Energon Universe animated cartoon for adults, kind of the same vein as Invincible. And Invincible has brought a lot of people into comic book stores, and which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think, like, if you did a GI Joe Transformers Mask kind of combined adult cartoon, how many more people are fans of those things than the Invincible? I mean, millions more, right? So I think you'll see guys coming in like, oh shit, Starscream's killing humans. Optimus Prime's a badass. The Cobra Commander's a badass. I think you're going to see a lot of people coming in the stores to get those comics if
I
they
agree.
if they do that cartoon the way I think they will.
And,
And I don't know
and
exactly when that's going to come out. Uh,
and the proof, really, of what you're saying too, is in Kirkman's. His universe that already exists, The Walking Dead. One of the most popular shows that's ever been on television.
that
I
drives
think.
me nuts about this state.
Mhm.
We live in Kentucky, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
We have Muhammad Ali, Jennifer Lawrence, George Clooney, Johnny Depp, Robert Kirkman, countless others, and our state never promotes that stuff,
No,
regardless
they
of who's
don't.
in charge. I mean, Robert Kirkman only had the number one TV show for 10 years. But why would we celebrate that?
Jerry
So,
Bruckheimer. We have Jerry Bruckheimer.
do we really?
Yeah, he lives in Versailles. Sure does.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Him and his wife both.
Songs for Life. My son and grandson got into Transformers from watching animated G1. Makes me wonder if the offshoots were needed. My dream would be for G.I. Joe and Transformers the cartoons, in addition to the Energon universe, as if they did, like, say, with Transformers, since that's our topic of the night, if they just did like a season 5 or 4, depending on where you want to put Headmasters, where it just picks up from G1
Oh,
and
that
just
would be
kind of
great.
smartens it up, um, as close as you can to the Sunbow animation without mistakes, because there's a lot of color issues and stuff like that, and as close as you can to the voice acting. I think it would sell. I mean, my kid, he likes watching the GI Joe cartoon. He likes watching some of Transformers. He's more of a GI Joe fan. Um, he likes Renegades, GI Joe Renegades, which makes his uncle Jeremy happy. But some of it is like he gets bored because he's already seen these episodes and wants to see more. And I'm like, those cartoons hold up 40 freaking years later. We're like, try watching He Man. I mean, there's some of them. I love He Man. I'm not knocking He Man. I'm just saying, like, I can't sit and watch 10 episodes of He Man in a row, but I can do that with G.I. Joe and Transformers.
Right.
And I really feel like just pick up where you left off, get as close as you can to it, but smarten it up and run with it. You know, let's see. Songs for Life says, uh, axe the rebirth and start off again with Return of Optimus Prime. You know what? I'm in favor of that. Songs for Life. That's right. Okay, so my idea for GI Joe, and I've talked about this on our other show, Toy Talk, was you do a mini series. They kind of same, Sunbow style animation, as close as you can to the voice acting, where General Hawk or Colonel Hawk recruits Duke to lead GI Joe. Your main villains are Cobra Commander and Baroness of Major Blood. There's no Destro yet. It's the typical 5-parter where they got to go around the earth to get some MacGuffin device. And at the end of it, Cobra loses. Cobra Commander tells Baroness send for Destro. Hawk has to leave because he's been promoted as general. Has to go to DC. Duke, you're now in charge. Boom, it leads us to the first G.I. Joe miniseries. And I think you could do something similar with Transformers, where maybe we're on Cybertron, Prime and Megatron are fighting the war. Things are getting tough. Energon's getting low, kind of expand upon that first 3-parter. And then, do those, see how that goes. Then do like a season 3 of G.I. Joe, before the movie or after the movie, however you want to do it. Ignore the dick cartoons. And then do a season 3, 4 of Transformers. And I think those would fly, man. I really do.
I think what they need to do with Transformers to kind of, I mean, because I don't want to say bring it back because we're on the heels. There's a new mobile game coming out for Transformers Eternity Wars. Of course, the GI Joe crossovers coming out. The new show, like you said, is coming out. So it's not like and the Energon universe itself is still going strong in the comics. So it's not like it needs a rebirth or a rebrand. But one thing that I do think that people want to see more of, and I know I'm that guy, I want to see more of the combiners. And we kind of got that a little bit in the Combiner Wars. But I want to see more of the combiner teams and things like that, battling it out and kind of beating the living hell out of each other. And the fact that, some of them are just so immensely powerful, like Predaking and Extinction. I think that when they have that just incredible power bump. I mean, I thought that Transformers, the Combiner Wars show did. For those of you that don't know, it was a YouTube show. I think it was done by Rooster Teeth. I'm pretty sure it was produced by the same people that did Red versus Blue, and it was a pretty dark show. And one of the key points in it is the Dinobots combine for the first time and create just an absolute monstrosity of a combiner. And the look on Perceptor's face is pure terror when that happens. And that's what we need more of. I need more of Shockwave tearing somebody's eyes out. I need more of the giant size and the giant scope of these figures inflicting emotions and strong emotions in people. I need Hollywood to finally kill off Bumblebee permanently. I need
Bumblebee.
I despise. He's always been a little bitch. Always. He's always been a little. He reminds me of you in a lot of ways, and I think that it's one of those things that.
This is Gary's first and last episode with me today.
I think it's one of those things.
I'm sorry your comics are bent up and tore up.
I need more of that from Hollywood because there's a market of that. And
we get that with the Energon comics, and I think the Energon animated series will get that as well.
Yes, and that's what I'm hoping.
But I my biggest thing, and I always say this on Toy Talk, is that I love that we live in a country where we can enjoy this as adults, but make stuff for kids. And the thing about the G1 cartoon, it was made for kids, and 40 years later, as big kids, we're still watching it.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that if you do it right, don't dumb it down. You got to appeal to kids. You don't need a kids line. We need one line called Transformers, and that's it. We don't need this. We don't need that. We just need one line that my son and I can both share and can enjoy collecting and playing with together. That's the one thing I don't think they know how to do. And I think that's because they've hired people from the food business, the cigarette industry, to run toy companies. You got some guy named Cox runs Hasbro, which changed your last name. Sorry. Changes, Jackson Smith, something other than Cox. But just, you got to have people that understand. You have to have generational customers.
Right.
And with my store, I have generational customers. One day when you're decrepit, which is probably tomorrow, in a wheelchair, your son will be pushing you in. You'll be like Captain Pike in Star Trek, like, red light, green light. We'll just push you over in the corner and ignore you.
Have you seen the newest episode of Strange New Worlds, by the way?
No, I haven't. I've not gotten into that. I've been rewatching Star Trek Picard season 3.
Strange New Worlds. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the recent episode pays homage to the longest running joke in the entire series.
Well, they're getting ready to redo all that with the new Paramount and all that stuff. They're going to
Yeah.
go back to like the original classic Trek, and
And
what
Strange New Worlds has been great. It
I've
wasn't.
seen episodes of it and I've liked it.
Yeah,
Some of
it's
the other
really
stuff, not
good.
so much.
Discovery was meh. Academy. I'm sorry. We're getting off topic here, but we got off topic earlier when you brought up Brock Lesnar. Just kidding. That was me that brought it up. But like, it's one of those things that Academy I thought was good. It had a lot of good episodes in it, especially episode 6 of Academy. When that ambush happens, that was classic Trek, in my opinion. And I know I'm in the minority on that, but that was a classic Trek type episode. So there's been some good or some bad, but my God, Paul Giamatti in Starfleet Academy, give that man an Oscar because he deserves it. That he did great in Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, I really had no interest in watching that. I really didn't care or want to watch Star Trek Picard season 1 or 2. Then I saw the trailer for season 3, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Ooh, this looks like more of what I'm into." And
Mm-hmm.
then I saw it had a new showrunner, and the guy was a big fan of Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock, which are kind of like my two favorite original cast movies. And I'm not a Trekkie. I'm a fan, but I'm not a Trekkie. I don't speak Klingon. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I probably know more about it than I want, but that's with everything. Um, but Picard season 3 to me, because I made a post and I think it made some friends of mine mad, and I don't know why. I just said that in there's one episode, and I don't want to spoil it. There's an episode where everyone's brought back organically. They're not diminished, they're not made of jokes. No one forgot where the Enterprise was. No one got kicked out of Starfleet. No one went to a Jedi Epstein Island, and created Kylo Ren or any of that nonsense, which that was so bizarre. Um, but like they all kind of come back organically, even Data, and they're around the ready room table on another ship, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like being in high school again watching this, or in 8th grade. This is so cool. And I posted that in 3 episodes in Star Trek Picard season 3, they did what all of Disney corporate Star Wars cannot do: bring back organically these characters, not diminish them, and bring in new diverse characters without, like whammons and all that stuff. They're all there because they're there. They deserve to be there. And no one bats an eye at it. And they just made a really brilliant series. And I think I'm on my 4th rewatch of it right now. It's the only
Picard
bad.
season 3.
Yes, I love it. It's so good. Yeah, it's Disney can learn a lot. They need to like scrap everything they're doing, watch Picard season 3, and be like, all right, now we know what to do. And there's some goofiness in there, but not where it's like offending or like making off-putting. But man, it just like they bring back everything organically, even the Enterprise D.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so special, so cool. It has humor when it's needed. Um, it's not forced. It's not making fun of itself. It's just really, really cool. Highly recommend it. That's one of the TV shows I recommend.
Do yourself a favor and watch at least yet last night's episode of Strange New Worlds, because like I said, it brilliantly pays off one of the longest running joke I believe in the entire series,
Shoot, man,
starting
I
with
still
the
got to get
original.
caught up on Tulsa King season 3, Landman season 2, whatever the hell's going on.
You realize Landman season 2 has been out like 3 years now, right?
No, it just came out last November.
Oh, same difference.
Nice try. You know what we feel about Gary in the store. Like Gary came in one day and said he's a big Battle Cat fan. And didn't know who Battle Cat was. He's like, "What's a Battle Cat?" Only his like best friend. That Gary is like the deer that Optimus Prime steps on. Except we don't say that's okay, Prime. We're like, thank you, Prime. Thank you for stepping on him. Thank you so much. Might want to wipe off the bottom of your foot.
And it makes
Um,
sense that you're a Cowboys fan because you look just like Tony Romo's stunt double if he gained 36 pounds and
wow.
had a head full of microscopic hair.
I don't know what the hell you just said, but sure. Speaking of the Cowboys, man, we're gonna have a phenomenal season.
It's your year. That's what Cowboys fans always
A
say.
broken clock is right twice a day, and guess what? This is the day that we're
No, it's
right.
not. No, it's not. It's
I hope we
totally
play you
not.
guys this year. Do you guys even still have a team?
Yeah, they're on wheelchairs, but we still have a team.
Is
We've
Colin
already
Kaepernick
lost.
still
We've
your
already lost.
quarterback?
No, we've already lost Ricky Pearsall for the season. So
I hope we play you guys because I'm
I
going to
don't think
talk so much smack.
you guys
No,
are,
I
you guys are
in
going
all
to be terrible.
in all seriousness, and people will be like, "Well, we're talking about Transformers now. They're talking about sports." I've been following the Cowboys preseason and training camp, and man, this is the most excited I've been in years. And one
November
of the
15th. November 15th, we play you guys at Jerry World.
oh sweet,
Yeah.
we should watch that game together. Like one shall stand and one shall fall. You're like, this is my buddy Hot Rod. Be like, nah, get out of here, man. I ain't falling for this crap. But no, I'm stoked because normally all you see is Jerry and Stephen Jones ad nauseum, and Coach Schottenheimer got to hire Christian Porter. That was his pick. Last year he didn't have any say in defense. Jerry picked Eberflew, and Eberflew out the cuckoo's nest or whatever because our defense was terrible except for a few games. Christian Porter is Coach Schottenheimer's pick. He got to announce him, introduce him all by himself. No Jerry, no Steven. And it's been probably 30 years since that's happened. So something has changed. And then I'm watching all the pressers, and it's Shotty and Porter. It's not Jerry and it's not Steven. Now, they'll talk to the press on their way from the clubhouse to the practice field, but they're not doing the pressers like they were. It's not the Jerry show. And
Right.
man, I'm just like, there's been a sea shift. I don't know if it's because they turned off that collider in Europe or what. The Stern, they turned that off. I'm getting better sleep. I'm getting better sleep, and the Cowboys are going to looking good. But no, man, I'm very excited for this football season. Like, I don't want to rush the year, but the summer. But man, I'm excited. Like, offense looks solid.
See,
I'm
that's what
watching.
I like about Cowboys fans. And I do like something about you guys, and that is
We're very Optimus Prime
yeah,
when it comes to the season.
Your inherent optimism about it, and then as the season goes on, what I really enjoy is
Guilty or innocent.
you seeing the pain and suffering in the eyes and the souls of every Cowboys season as they realize the phrase "It's our year" becomes what it always becomes, and that's a fairy tale. And you see the pain and the suffering in their eyes. It really brings me a great joy.
Well, as a Catholic, we're taught that we have to learn suffering. And what greater suffering than being a Cowboys fan?
That's
you
right.
know?
I mean, you could be a Cleveland fan.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, when this broken clock is right eventually, which I think is going to be this season.
It's not this season.
I am going to talk so much crap that there's going to be a lot of like regulars that are going to become shipping customers because they just won't come in for the next year. I've already got one guy that's like, man, I'm not coming in. If by chance you guys win it, you can ship my stuff to me. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to come in and see the big giant star rug, the cheerleader? No, we're not getting new product this month. I brought in the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders to welcome everybody, which I'd probably get fired from home if I did that. But no, I think it's going to be a good football season for everybody. Hopefully not the Eagles because Eagles suck. But
Eagles do suck.
And then the Giants I don't care if they got Harbaugh. You could have Optimus Prime coaching that team. You're still the New York Giants. You don't even have a stadium in New York. You're in New Jersey, for God's sakes. Another state. But anyway, Um, where do you see the future? Going back on topic, and then we'll wrap up. Where do you see the future of Transformers? Are you optimistic?
I'm
Are you?
optimistic. I'm
Yeah, me too,
optimistic.
man.
I think at the end of the day, there's something that rings true about opposing factions locked in an eternal war for ideologies and theologies. And if it sounds familiar, if you've heard this one before, stop me. But I think two opposing factions, or sometimes three opposing factions, and there's just something inherently cathartic about that, because of just where we are in life in general right now. And then also on
Are
the
you still
base of
talking
it,
football, or are you talking Transformers?
no, I'm talking Transformers, but also too, you've got at its core a toy that is two things in one, right? A giant robot and a car or a plane or whatever it is. So I think it sells itself. I think it's one of those things that sells itself. We're in an era right now where innovation, for things like that at least can be at an all-time high. So I'm optimistic on the future.
Me too, man. Me too. And I agree. I think there's something eternal about characters like Optimus Prime and Megatron.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Decepticons, it's like when I watch the Sunbow cartoons, GI Joe or Transformers, I'm kind of rooting for both GI Joe and Cobra, the Autobots and Decepticons, because they're just such cool characters. And maybe it's the generation and the time in which we grew up in, but I just feel like they've left a mark that just isn't. I mean, people always say like, "Oh man, I used to read Amazing Spider-Man," and I think like, "Oh man, what would Peter Parker do?" Whereas for me, I'm like, "What would Flint or Snake Eyes do? What would Optimus Prime do? Or God forbid, what would Starscream do?" It's like it kind of gives you that perspective, and it's really cool, and it's cool to see it's still around. It's still viable. People still care, adults and kids. I just wish more kids were into it, but that's a failure on Hasbro's part, and that's a whole show there itself. But as fans, as adult fans, I think it's up to us to pass that love of these properties to the next generation, whether it be our kids or their friends, or be positive about it, talk about it. But no, I mean, how much you don't get better than Optimus Prime? I mean, other
Right.
than Jesus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's Jesus, Optimus Prime,
I
um,
agree.
and just
Um,
it's what a great role model.
before I know you said we're going to wrap up. I have three fun facts
Yeah,
for you. One of them comes from my interview with Lorenzo de Bonaventura. He said in Hasbro's library of rules, there's a rule that Shockwave and Megatron cannot touch each other. I thought that was kind of cool because they're both kind of held in reverence with each other. And I think I told you that when I did that, but it's in my interview there. The next two facts are incredible voice acting feats. You know who voiced Triptychon?
not off the top of my head.
Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond, Raymond's brother.
Oh wow,
Yeah. And then your boy Chris Latta voiced a Simpsons character.
Mr.
You know
Burns.
who that Mr. Burns. That's right. He was Mr. Burns's first acting, or he was Mr. Burns' first voice. So those are three
You want to
quick.
hear something crazy? So I was doing some research on Chris Latta, and he would go by Chris Collins
Mhm.
sometimes. He did stand up, the A&E comedy improv hosted by William Shatner. And I'm like, talk about going back in time. And it's cool because Shatner has a leather jacket on. He's like, we're having the A&E comedy improv, and first up is Chris Collins, and he walks up. He doesn't look anything like you think he would look. Kind of looks like Paul Heyman in a way. He's got the balding with the long hair and like kind of a ponytail. Very like late 80s, early 90s suit with a leather trench coat on. And he does this whole comedy bit. It's really funny because like you hear his natural speaking voice is Steeler, and I can't think of who that is on the Transformers, but in GI Joe it's Steeler, and he starts doing this bit where he's smoking a cigarette. That's how long ago it was where you could smoke in a building, and he's like, that's William Shatner. He's a celebrity. She clapped for him. Everybody clapped for Mr. Shatner, and he's carrying on. He's like, looks at this guy and he's like, "You're not clapping for William Shatner. What's wrong with you? It's Shatner. Got to clap for him." He goes, "So I'm not really a comedian. I'm a psycho, kind of let out, you know." Because my doctor thinks this is good for me. And he starts going into this like routine. He's like, "You're not laughing," and he goes, "If you don't laugh, the little man will come out inside." And when he does that, you hear Cobra Commander and Starscream. It's like that's so freaking cool, man. God rest his soul. What a great voice actor. And man, I tell you, all the respect in the world to all those voice actors and all those cartoons because they really made our childhood. Because I hear Flint's voice in my head. I hear Destro. I hear General Hawk. I hear Duke. We've got to meet a few of these people in our travels. We were at, my wife and I were at JoeCon in 2013 in Indianapolis. And Flint and Lady J were there, the voice actors. And they did this panel. Like, yeah, we were told we had a kid on the Transformers. Not sure because we never did that show, but we had a kid on there. Blah, blah, blah.
Joseph Fairborn.
Yep. Earth Defense Force, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we catch him out walking the crowd. And I was like, hey, I used to think like you all were my parents. And then, kind of kidding around with him. And Flint's like, you could have been our kid. You kind of look like a mixture of Flint and Lady J. And I got this picture with him. And I'm like, God could have taken me to heaven right there. Life was complete. Because I'm just sitting here like big, eating grin on my face with Flint and Lady J. And I'm like, that's so freaking cool. And they would hearing them speak about how, yeah, some of the plots are really outlandish in the cartoon, but the voice actors sold it like kind of like the James Bond movies, where like they sold, a giant laser beam from space. Goldeneye was like this big threat. They sold it, so you believe, oh yeah, this is a big threat. Bond's got to stop that Goldeneye before it blows up something, or Man with a Golden Gun or Goldfinger or whatever. And they were like, that's the way it was with our shows. And you go back and rewatch it, and you hear that and you appreciate it. You're like, yeah, man, it's kind of like it's almost like the GI Joe team's a family, the Autobots are a family. Megatron's kind of that like really shitty uncle you have that comes over that pisses on the toilet seat, drinks all the beer, kind of cool, talks shit during football season, leaves. Cover Commander's kind of that weird uncle that you don't want to leave your kid with. It's just kind of like that's what it is, and it's like it's kind of hard to root against them, and just the voice actors really sell it and make it real in a way that I don't know that people can appreciate,
She had something in her
unless
eye.
you lived it.
She had something in her eye.
Oh, I use that so many times. I had a first true love girlfriend. We went riding around on an ATV, kind of did some things that teenagers do, like starting out. Comes back and her sweater's on inside out. Her uncle points, hey, how come your sweater's inside out? I was like, she had something in her eye. He's like, good enough, good enough. I was like, oh God, because I think I'm gonna die. They're gonna like lynch me, or they got all this property. They're gonna bury me out in the dirt. And like, no, your son never came over here. We never saw him, But I was like, yeah, she had something in her eye, Say thank you, Cobra Commander and Destro and Baroness. You saved my ass. I've used that quite a few times.
She had something in her eye. Oh,
Makes no sense, but it totally makes sense.
it's so good. Oh man.
What great memories. I mean, these cartoons, these toys, these comics, these characters just give us such great memories. They're very inspirational, very aspirational. That's what I love about it, man. Like G.I. Joe and Transformers, to me, it kind of eclipses Star Wars in a way. Star Wars is kind of like this finite, to me, it's a finite, beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it ends where G.I. Joe Transformers can continue. And they kind of had this legacy, kind of like a Spider-Man or Batman, where it's like, you know, villains. There's certain Batman villains that I feel like Catwoman, Penguin, and Riddler. It's kind of like they're like the Ric Flair of Batman, not like in popularity or impact, but like they could be good or bad, and people are still going to cheer them. And I kind of feel like those characters are kind of that way. And it's what I
Mhm.
feel like with Megatron and Starscream, Cobra Commander, and Destro. It's like, yeah, it's pretty shitty. You want to take over the world and make everybody slaves, but fuck, why not? I mean, you know, these guys are cool. You know, it's like I uh I keep teasing my wife. Somebody, my best friend Jeremy, you know, Jeremy at the shop, gave me
Mhm.
this Cobra lapel pin or this little Cobra pin. And every time I go to church and wear a suit, I want to wear it. And I'm so tempted to wear it. You know, want to go up to get communion and be like, what the hell is that? You know, what's going on with this guy?
They
You
just don't
know,
make terrorists like they used to.
right? That's a great episode too.
Mhm.
Cobra. Bra. Yeah. Love Old Snake. Well, Gary, I want to thank you for coming on tonight and talking Transformers,
Thank you for
admitting your
having.
49ers are going to suck and the
Yeah,
Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. I appreciate that.
right. Yeah.
No, but
No, it's
um,
things that will never happen for $100.
going to be like, as the year 2095, the Dallas Cowboys finally won, you know,
No,
Dan's Frozen and Carbonite.
The Fermi paradox will kick in before the Cowboys ever win another Super Bowl.
Oh, man, I'm going to talk so much smack this year to you. When do we play again? When do we play again? You said?
And November 15th at Jerry World.
Okay. We might have to get together for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun. Fun one.
And no, man, thank you for coming
Thanks for
on.
having me.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Um, highly recommend you read the Skybound Energon comics, Transformers, Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, and now Mask. There's a ROM one shot getting ready to drop in the next month, or actually this month. And it's going to be pretty cool. Robert Kirkman's kind of working his magic with all that. It's kind of the showrunner, if you will, of all that. G.I. Joe and Transformers are in a really cool place. Transformer toys still sell well. G.I. Joe Classified is selling well. And let's keep it alive. Let's pass it on to the next generation. Let's talk about how cool these properties are. So, again, Gary, thanks for showing up tonight. Appreciate you, man. Uh, love Transformers. Everybody roll out. Have a good weekend. Please hit like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends. Tell everybody about this channel. We have a lot of great content coming up. All this month, we're going to do these little powwows, if you will. Hopefully, with more people. We had more people scheduled. Some people had to drop out because of personal issues going on in their lives. Wish them well. We're going to talk about G.I. Joe, Star Wars, and I believe Thundercats this month and Turtles. So we're going to hit all the kind of major properties and just kind of like what it meant to you growing up. Obviously, to Gary and I, Transformers meant a lot to us growing up. And we're very thankful for the people at Sunbow, Hasbro, and Marvel Comics for adding a very awesome and special element of our childhood that we can't and just will not let go of. So, everybody out there, have a great weekend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on DanCast on Actionverse Entertainment. Gary, thanks. Everybody, roll out. Have a great weekend.